Oh my God, she's just had another puppy.
Gosh, how many's that?
That's 10, but she lost lot 1.
Good
But the last one was born at 6:20. So she's had a surprise puppy.
Good grief.
Is that normal, Julie?
Are you, are they at your house then?
No. God, no. No, they're at their bitch's house. Oh, I can't believe she's... Sorry, what?
You've been awake with them all day, all night?
No, I woke up to this flurry of emails saying number 4, number 5. She had 2 born at once, which was weird. But only one of them died. Well, one of them was born dead. So she's got 9 live ones at the moment. So it's all a bit mucky at the minute. And scary. It's all got real.
Yes. Is it?
What, Julie?
Have you picked which one yet?
No. I'm not a fan of picking them straight away because you don't know anything about them, do you? So sort of the next 2 or 3 weeks, once they've started to move about and open their eyes and get a bit of, you know, character.
You've got 8 weeks to prep.
to panic. 8 weeks to panic.
Oh dear.
It's like, oh my God, it's too near my memory going through it with her. I haven't had 14 years to dim the memory. Oh.
Ooh.
This thing, because of your question, it's normal to
Oh, I can't.
Is it normal to suddenly get a surprise puppy? Well, yes, it is, because of the shape of the uterus, which, if you can imagine, when this is full up on both sides with pups, they can quite often, and it sounds like you've had a traffic jam at this point between 2 of the pups, which will have restricted oxygen access to the one that was being squeezed, you know, because they have placentas and umbilical cords just like we do. And if they're both trying to pass through the same space, then one of them's obviously had the placenta and umbilical cord squeezed at that point. And the other reason you can get a surprise puppy is, imagine the guy that's waiting at the back of the queue up here, or on the other side, you know, they're going to take a while to get all the way down. And not only do they have to wait for the other pups to move, but they have to wait for all the placentas that are in front of them to detach and be passed as well. So yeah, not that surprising at all. And anything up to a couple of hours between births doesn't worry us. Anything longer than that is okay, as long as there's no signs of distress, you know. So any signs of distress, and then we would be starting to want to assist. And they can get tired with very big litters. They can get tired and obviously then need a cesarean. So yeah, if you haven't had a 2-hour gap, assume that it's possible that you might have more babies. All right, sorry, I'll get rid of that and let you talk.
So
there you go.
How do you know when they've stopped, apart from no more puppies?
Oh, okay, so how do you know? Well, obviously the only absolutely verifiable way of telling is to take an X-ray. Most normal shaped and sized bitches don't have problems, you know.
She was big.
Yeah. If you think she's got a very heavy litter, then what you're looking for is any signs of continued nasty discharges. So it's normal to have a bloody discharge for a while after
Yeah.
birth, completely normal. But if it's nasty, if it's green, if she's straining at all, if she's not looking well in herself, and obviously she's going to be tired, but if she's not feeling well in herself at all.
She was puffing and panting, and you could see it. Well, this is from Prue. Her stomach was contracting again, and I said, "Oh, I don't know if the uterus is going back or whatever." And then obviously one appeared. She is starting to eat in between, just having little snacks and a drink. So obviously there's gunk at the back, but there always isn't there immediately afterwards. But her tummy's gone down a little bit now. Well, it's gone down a lot from what it was. It's gone down a little bit since this last puppy. So fingers crossed. Can't do with any more. It's way too many. Oh dear. Very sorry.
How many total?
There was 10 and she lost 1. So it's big enough litter.
Bless. Oh dear.
Well, she's a big bitch. She is a really big dog. She could pass for a male. So.
Yeah.
Oh well.
I think I've seen Prue have problems with births very often. I know I dealt with one as a cesarean, but long time ago.
Ah, yes, and that was me with you then. Because that was my dog's litter, her dog's bitch, but my boys sired it. And we came in at God knows what time in the morning as an emergency, and we were all, you know, they come out flat, don't they, a bit from a cesarean, and we were all trying to get them going. And she lost a few, so we put them on the side, and one of you called us back to say one of them is actually alive. So we came back, and it was the teeniest, tiniest puppy, and we called him Mouse, and he went on to be a huge dog. Bless him. She's not.
That was an absolute lesson for me, because that puppy, and I'm not in any way, and I'm not lackadaisical about checking them, but there was nothing, you know.
No.
There was no heartbeat, there was no breathing. I popped him to one side because he was in the way, essentially, after everybody else. And luckily, I have to say, we don't rush them into bags or into, you know, we don't put them out of view. So, it was, you know, if it had been somebody else, you know, tidied away. And yeah, very lucky little boy. But yeah, absolute object lesson to me. I mean, I'd already checked him several times and decided he was gone and put him to one side. And yeah, now I just can't, if I'm in the area and I can't leave them alone, I have to.
Well, I came and picked him up and took him back, and Prue had said, I hope it's not the tiniest one, which it was. And overnight he couldn't suckle because the teats were too big for him. And she said, oh my God, well, nature's going to take its course. She got up in the morning. Well, she didn't get up, she sleeps with them. And he'd managed to get the smallest teat under her back leg. He'd gone in there and latched on, and he got to be a huge dog. Bless him.
Funny, what a small world. And obviously I won't have remembered your face because I'm all about.
No, because I was quite frankly shitting myself. So I had to go out because I had a panic attack, and then I came back in.
Yeah. No, I get very very focused when I
Anyway, I'll keep you informed.
Yeah, it'd be nice. That'd be nice. So, Judith, all you've missed is a big discussion about bitches giving birth and how excited Andrea is that she's involved yet again in the birth of her new baby. Yeah. So we'll start off with, has anybody got, I know, because I'm seeing all of these messages going back and forward about how horrible your dogs are right now, and what it occurred to me was that when you first met me, and it's quite a long time ago now, training wise, that we've been together, when you first met me, I was in the middle of Dodo being the most difficult puppy I've had for quite a long time, you know, and hopefully you saw or are seeing that it does start to come back round, that they do start to become easier people to live with, and you get an understanding between you. But it's, again, hopefully you can see that it doesn't happen overnight, and that we do have to maintain that patience and that, you know, attitude. And yes, you do lose it. So, but let's see whether or not, taking into account the fact that they are teenagers and to a degree some of the behaviours they have to kind of go through, but let's see whether or not we can do almost a self-help group, and if not fix the problems, at least see if we can provide emotional support for those of us that are going through it in the hardest ways. Yeah, so who wants to go first with, oh my God, I want to kill my teenager? Volunteers? No, because Maria's got the most perfect dog in the world. Look at her shaking her head. There's a paw to prove it. I've doped my dog. She drugs her, you know. I'm just saying. She does. I know. Anyway, no, it's a lie. I'm kidding. Go on then, let's have a volunteer. Somebody's got to have some, yeah, course.
Right. She's an absolute star throughout the day. She really is. Oh, I can't read that.
I've not started yet.
Oh, she is. She's a star throughout the day because I'm working. I either work from home or I go out to work. She lays down, she's quiet, she's not destructive. I take her for her long walk in the afternoon and she's pretty good on the lead still. She gets very excited when she sees people and pulls, but on a general walk, she's quite sniffy still, so not pulling. Then she'll have about a 20-minute kip when we get home. Then a bit later, she'll have a tea and then she goes crazy. And she's full of beans, which is normal. I'm sure it is. She's had a quiet day. But she wants attention, obviously, because she hasn't had it in the day, which is natural. But she just comes in and shouts at you constantly. And whether you're eating your tea, whether you're watching the telly, whatever you're doing, unless you're paying her attention, she shouts at you. She's picking things up that she's never had before. We've never had to worry about leaving things on the floor. Now you have to put everything away because it's wrecked. She's just going through a stage and we're aware of that.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm going to decide, let's see, I think we take the list of problems just to find out if anybody's got the same ones, and then I'll go round them and go through them, and it might be, we'll see, it might be that there's some similar ones. So anybody else up for a whinge? Are we all perfect? You can't say you're perfect. You go on, Leanne.
So Ben's mouthing a lot, like it's getting ridiculous how much. And I'm like doing the whole stay still and then ask her to leave, and she does, she's really good, but then like 5 minutes later she'll just mouth again. And it's actually quite painful, like she doesn't do it softly, it's pretty hard. But the other thing is like, she's just so hyper, especially at work. When I'm working, because she works with me, isn't she just like constantly need for attention? And the only way that we really get her to like calm down is by giving her cuddles, which is actually giving her what she wants. But at the same time, it's just when you're working. So yes, that's what we're struggling with at the moment, the most. It's just, oh, and the obsession. So the cardboard's up with the bunnies, but now she's missing them and she wants to be with them all the time. So that's that's the other thing that we're dealing with, the rabbits. But yeah, that's it.
Okay, good, good. Righto. Anyone else? You having problems with your internet, Judith? I keep losing you. She can't hear us, I don't think. Anyone else want to nip in? Yeah. Hello.
Like Leanne, attention seeking, mouthing, mouthing, yeah, just wanting attention all the time.
Okay. We keep losing your camera, Judith, but I think I got that. So attention seeking, or just biting or stealing things. What's her main? Hang on, so you're on mute. That's it.
Well, you'll have to look after her properly.
We're having
If she
issues.
starts barking, you'll have to.
Okay, Judith, hang on. You're still silent.
Right, is that better? I can't hear you, but yeah, mouthing, putting her teeth around your arm, just getting hold of you all the time. And I mean, she's hassling me now because she knows there's some treats on the worktop, and it's like, I want you to get those treats and do something so I can get them. Yeah.
Okay, bravo. Now Jill tried, so we'll have Jill next. There we go.
It's very similar, actually. She just likes a lot of attention and getting into places where she shouldn't be and things like that. Basically, it's the same old with Poppy, but she does like a lot of attention. But I think that's because of her breed, and we have to keep her active. I'm our main playmate, and she just likes to play continually. And you can't get much else done because if you're not playing with her, she's getting into mischief. So it's very time consuming, shall we say. She's not very good at sitting and settling. In fact, that's impossible unless it's in an evening after our 8:30, 9 o'clock walk. She'll curl up beside Jim and she'll be quiet and peaceful. But that's about an hour or so before bedtime. The rest of the time, it's quite busy with her.
Okay.
And at the minute, of course, we're trying to keep her calm after our op. And it's like trying to keep control of a whole host of eels, basically. We can't stop her from jumping up on the sofa. It's just, and it's only going to get worse. She only had it done on Friday. We're only into the second day. Goodness only knows what we're going to be like by next weekend. Be to take away, I think.
He's not giving you a straitjacket.
Yes, we've got one. It's like it reminds me of a baby grower type thing with little legs in, and it fastens round our backside and things. So she is in that, and we have to roll it up when she goes to the toilet. She started trying to get it off. I mean, we all saw what she was like with that nappy thing that time, didn't we? She started to try and get at the arm bits a bit, but to be fair, she's not too bad. She's not too bad with that. It's just the bouncing around, and she keeps bringing her toys to me wanting to play tug, and I'm sort of saying, I can't play with you, Poppy, and you feel awful because she doesn't understand why you're not doing it. So yeah, I think we're both going to be to take away by next weekend.
All right, who wants to go? Maria, have you got any complaints at all about your dog? Is she so perfect it's untrue?
Hi, yeah, we've still got the same problem of Missy just going up on the work surfaces. And if there is anything, there's usually not. We're getting pretty good at not leaving things, but every now and again there will be something that's left, a knife or Knives with plastic handles she loves because she just nicks them and then eats the handles. Which is not good. Often see her walking around with a knife in her mouth. Well, not often, but we have seen her walking around with a knife in her mouth.
All right.
But we can't stop her from going up there. She just, and she can reach quite, because she's a big dog, she can reach quite far back.
Right. So, are you sure that she's not planning to murder you? I'm just saying, if it's specifically knives that she's going after, are you sure that she hasn't? And what I would do is I would check her pockets and make sure she hasn't got little notes on how to murder your human and get away with it. Okay, so yeah, you're absolutely living with teenagers, the lot of you. So things which occur to me. First of all, I did mention this is the most energy these guys are ever going to have. This is the fittest they are ever going to be. And although exercise does burn that off a little bit, what it also does is it causes an excitement in them. It causes an increase in adrenaline, and it can therefore make it harder for them to relax. So I have to say the only way to really help them is to use mental activity. So if you are still feeding them from a bowl at all, I strongly recommend you ditch the bowl entirely. That all of their food, they have to think about how to acquire it, that they have to sniff for it, that they have to find it, that they have to search inside boxes and things, that they have to chase toys around. And I know it's a pain for us because it adds that extra time element onto serving their food. But in the long run, it means that then we can hopefully get a little bit of peace because they're doing something, entertaining themselves, not constantly nagging at us to entertain them. The other thing that occurs to me, certainly with one of the dogs, is if there is a pattern that they eat and then within a specific time period, so say 1 to 2 hours, then that's when they're starting to show these inappropriate bitey behaviors. What you can get for some dogs is gut issues. So perhaps the diet isn't quite fitting them correctly, that it's causing a little bit of discomfort, and that can lead to anxiety, and anxiety can often be shown with bitey type behaviors. The other thing is there are some studies, although they're still debating whether or not it's true, is about protein levels and balance of diet, whether or not some dogs need a lower protein diet. And now at this age, they're starting to come to the end of their growth. So they're starting to not need as much protein in their diet. And if you've got a dog who you want to live as a couch potato, which to be frank, for most dog owners, that's what you want, don't you? You want somebody who can just come and crawl into the sofa with you and have a cuddle and not be constantly needing. Then you need to be looking at a diet that is a maintenance style diet rather than a growth diet or a working diet. Even if you've got a working breed, you know, you need to be taking the protein levels down a bit. And I'm not a nutritionist, so don't ask me which diets I would use. Just to bear in mind that perhaps playing with the diet a little bit might help them to calm down a bit. Making foods that are more novel and more complex to eat. So things like vegetables instead of kibbles, things so they have to chew on them, so they have to work at getting the calories out of them a bit more. And obviously substituting rather than adding to the diet that they're already having. Remember to take some calories out if you're going to be putting other things in. So yeah, different types of protein can have different effects. I know as a personal with IBS, I can't eat beef. So on Thursday I ate beef because, you know, every now and then just test yourself. So I was poorly all day Friday and off work. And dogs can be quite subtle in their demonstrations of pain responses and discomfort responses. They don't necessarily just lay down and get up, you know, look poorly. It can be that they're in discomfort, but they'll show it in other ways. So mouthing behaviors are quite common for dogs that are in gut discomfort. Okay, it does concern me if your dog is still using their mouth hard. I think I would always expect dogs, you know, it's they don't have hands, so they do use their mouths to try and communicate with us and to tell us things. But if those are uncomfortable bites and there's pressure involved, or they're doing any damage, then that does concern me. And I do think we have to have a look at what we can do to try and help them understand. So again, we go back to the hand feeding exercises. We're going to have a look at playing games that kind of explain to them that they need to control their own emotions a bit better when they're interacting with us and when they're playing with us. So I've got one game that immediately comes to mind for that. So what's that? Hyper and attention demanding mouthing, attention seeking. Okay, so back to, and we did mention it a while ago, back to the fact that what works gets reinforced, you know? So I want you to always be doing, I don't know if I've spoken to you specifically about doing ABCs. So, and we're going to add an extra letter to that. So we're going to call it an MABC. So ABC is all a bit sciencey, but actually once you understand it, once you've got it in your head, it works really well. So ABC is just looking for the cause of what's reinforcing, what's maintaining that behavior that you hate so much. And the A stands for antecedent. So antecedent's a big word that just means what's in that picture at that time when that behavior happens. What's in the environment? What are the cues to the dog to do that behavior? Environmental cues, or your physical cues, or your verbal cues, you know. So for example, an antecedent to a dog barking might be a certain time of the day, there's a noise near the door, or there's the sound of a post van, or there's a person that walks down the gravel at that particular time. So that's your antecedent picture. We need to know that. We need to know it in detail. Then we need to describe the behavior, because it's important that you know exactly what it looks like. Not what you think it means or what you think the intention of it is, but what it looks like, exactly what it is. So my dog barks, runs towards the door, and will continue barking for X length of time, and then they will eventually come away from the door. They will come to me, they will poke at me, you know, describe it, exactly what they're doing, not what you think they're thinking. Then we look at the consequence, and the consequence is the ABC. Consequence is from the dog's point of view. Okay, so dog's point of view. The postman came. I barked. The postman went away. The consequence was the postman went away. Okay, and that's really important. Not what you think they wanted at this stage. We're not interested in that. We want to know what actually happened. Does that make sense? I know it's all complicated, but it will come round, I promise. And then we're going to look at the M. And the M is the hardest one. That's the motivation. What do you, and this is where you are allowed a little bit of speculation. What is the motivation for the dog to do that behavior again? Okay, so we're going to do this. We're going to do this as a little exercise, and we're going to choose counter surfing as our subject that we're going to work through together. Okay, so what I do when I'm doing an ABC, And it looks like that. I write it on my piece of paper and I go MABC. And the first one we're going to look at is antecedents for counter surfing. All right. And you can yell in at any point. You can go, because I want to know that you're understanding it, because it's going to make it easier for you to think through problems again in future. So the antecedents for counter surfing, you obviously have to have a counter. So we're going to put the counter. And usually counters are in kitchens, so we would have a kitchen. Yeah. And we can't do that behavior without the possibility that there might be something on the counter worth stealing. So we're going to have object or food is in that picture. Yeah. Also, from a dog's point of view, there's the smell of food. So there's the scent. Yeah. So we've got the antecedents in place. We know what they are. And that's really important. We'll come to why that's, I can't get it in line, but anyway. Then the behavior is jumping up at the counter, or if you're a twiggy dog, when she was a puppy, you just literally stand next to the counter and stretch your neck out, because that works. Okay, so you've got to jump up, you've got to grab at the food or paw at the food, so grab with your mouth or use your paws to get to the food. And the consequence, obviously, from the dog's point of view, is quite often you'll get the item. Okay, so what do we think the motivator for that behavior is? Well, we're going to go for the obvious one. We're going to go for hunger. And let's face it, dogs are generally perpetually hungry. They're a species that were designed to take advantage of every opportunity for a food resource. You know, if you were a wild dog wandering around, it wouldn't do for you to walk past a dead mouse and go, oh, I'll get it later. I'm not really in the mood. You need to eat whatever's available, because you don't know when you're going to eat. It might be 3 or 4 days before you can eat again. So hunger is a natural behavior for dogs. It's constant. It's always there. But it might not be hunger. Perhaps the motivation is boredom. You know, I haven't done anything for a bit. What's going on? I'll go be nosy. I'll go and do this. Yeah. It's possible that the motivation might be that they get attention. So it might be that it's predictable that when they put their feet up on the counter, the owner will always get involved. So, you know, if you haven't had a bit of owner attention for a while, perhaps we're going to do this, and this will be a way of getting the owner to get off the sofa and come and check what we're doing. Okay, so now we've got that list for whatever your behavior is. What we need to have a look at, yeah, is we can change each part of this list. So for the motivation, what we need to think about here is you must provide access to something that fulfills that motivation in order for that behavior to reduce. Okay, you must, because if we don't provide for that need, which is what motivators are, if we don't provide for that need, then we leave a vacuum, and the dog's just going to continue trying to fulfill that need with other behaviors that are probably not going to be ones that we like. All right, so hunger, boredom, attention, in these cases, can we think of ways to fulfill those needs? Obviously, food, toys, searches, sniffing. Yeah, we've spoken about those. The antecedents, can we change anything in the antecedents? Can we change the picture, the visual, olfactory cues that are in that environment that tell the dog that it's a good idea to have a look at the counter? Well, we're not going to get rid of the counter, you know, that's permanent. We're not going to get rid of the kitchen, that's got to stay. But we can make sure that it's very unlikely that objects or food are going to be left within grabbing distance. And it's really important that we do. Smells, can't do much about those. You're cooking, you're going to make a smell. So the only thing we can really control in that antecedent picture is making sure there's nothing available. Behavior, can we change the behavior? can we say jumping up at the counter is no longer effective? Well, we do change the behavior by making it ineffective, but much better if we can take that behavior and say, well, how's about you do this instead for the same result? Yeah, so putting in a replacement behavior, an alternative behavior. So again, this will depend whether or not that behavior is always in the presence of the owner, or if it tends to be when they go away. I think with jumping up at counters, it's much more a management issue. It's much more of don't let it be rewarded. Don't set them up to have a reward. But, you know, if it's when you're present and they're doing it, then you can teach them things like off. You can teach them things like go and lay down, so that you can't jump up at the counter and lay down at the same time. You can teach them to follow you every time you leave the kitchen. If it's something that they're doing when you're not there, you can teach them that they must follow you around the house, that they're not to be on their own in the kitchen. And obviously things like stair gates and barriers, closing doors, making sure they can't get to it. And then we need to make sure the consequence isn't what it has been. So at the moment, the consequence for jumping up and counter surface is that the dog gets the item, they get whatever it is they're going after. Well, of course, we have to prevent that, and we can, you see, this is where people then want to go into the punishment line. This is where they want to make it aversive for the dog to jump up. We want, you know, it's a normal human response is to want the consequence to be a nasty one for the dog. And this is where we have to be very careful with our own brains that we don't fall into that channel. So it's really important that we prevent them from practicing the behavior in the first place by changing the antecedent picture, or we teach them that in order to get something off the counter, they have to do an alternative behavior. But what we must make sure is the consequence of getting the item for jumping up and counter surfing is no longer there. It doesn't exist. Does that make sense? Now, having said that, on the subject of making it aversive, I am considering this with Dodo. And this is one of the reasons why I put quite a lot of thought into it, because he will every day at work where there's counters and at home, just check just in case, you know, just have a quick look just in case. And unfortunately, sometimes it is rewarding. And the problem with being rewarded every now and then is it really drives you to try more often. Yeah, it's a bit like producing a dog gambler. If I just put one more coin in the slot, maybe it will pay out. So what we need to do, and Ian Dunbar suggested, is you could make a booby trap. I'm so reluctant to go down this level, because actually, if I'm aware and I'm monitoring, I can see that he's about to do it and I can interrupt that behavior. I can call him away. I can tell him an off if his paws are already on the side. And if necessary, I can move towards him as if I'm going to remove him. And if he really refuses, I literally will just put my hand in his collar and move him away, like you've seen me do when he's hassling you at work, you know, when he's hassling you in class. But Ian Dunbar suggested, and I can't say I haven't completely got rid of it out of my brain, but I know that there are potentially massive risks to my dog's confidence. But he suggested taking empty tin cans and stringing them together with fine string and popping them on the counter. So they're all fastened together and the fine string runs along the front of the counter, so that when the dog puts their paws on the counter to have a look, they will catch this string and the string will pull all of the cans down, and all of the cans will bang and crash and make a massive noise, and that scares the dog. It also alerts you to the fact that they've been there, so you come running in and you can pretend panic, or even though you're kind of laughing up your sleeve, because they've done this to themselves. My concerns with that is your dog doesn't have the thought process, I don't think, to be able to put counter surfing together with that horrible noise. I think what they do is they experience something that's completely unpredictable in a place that they thought was safe, and it generally makes them more anxious about the place that they live, and would be my thoughts on it. So it's why I'm not gone to it. But I do laugh inside my head at the idea that I might one day just do it if he carries on, because he's annoying me. All right, so questions about that, or ways in which you might think that you could apply it, the whole MABC thing. Go on then. Oh, you have to press your button, darling.
Right. I totally agree. She's obsessed with my bobble hats and my scarves. And the kitchen table is a dumping ground. So you come in, you take the hat off, scarf off, you dump it on the kitchen table. 10 minutes later, she's dragging it into the room because she's put her feet on the table, which is my fault. I'm putting the stimulus there. So to avoid it, we don't put that stuff on there. The noise thing is, whilst I sort of agree that I could see you laughing down your sock. Anyway, your sleeve. It happened naturally with her. When she was smaller, she would try and lick the plates in the dishwasher, and her collar caught on the thing, and it pulled the whole tray off and scared the crap out of her. And she's quite noise phobic as it is. She doesn't like noise, so it was really counterintuitive. If she's a more confident dog, maybe like Dodo, I can see you getting away with it. But for her, it was like a backwards step. Do you think? So it's better to avoid putting the stimulus there in the first place than tempt them constantly and have them fail or whatever. So we still put the bloody bobble hats on the table, and she still walks in with it. So it's our fault completely. But yeah, I get what you say.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? That's the hard part, is owning our responsibility. We're not living with humans here. We're living with animals, you know, and as much as they have got these brilliant brains and these brilliant skills, which are better than ours in some ways, we are entirely different species. To expect them to feel guilty or feel sorry or to learn when the consequence is driving the behavior, you know, they're doing it because it works. So I'm going to give you some homework for all of these problems, because you already know it. You're all absolutely brilliant at this. You all know it. So I want you now to have a quick go. I'm going to run out of time. But I want you now, you don't have to look. This is my notes. This is how I do behavior clinics. No, it's not the only way, but it's part of it. But I want you to do a quick MABC for the behavior that you asked me about. Or if you haven't given me a behavior, I want you to do it. And then I want you to share it with us all. Yeah? And what we're going to do on WhatsApp, so do an MABC for your problem. And then on WhatsApp, I'll put this one up so you can have a look at this one before. We're going to discuss how we would change each part, what we could do instead that would help with that particular problem. All right? If you haven't got a problem, if you've got a perfect dog, make one up. Come up with a problem, and we'll do an MABC on that. All right? So we're going to talk about, because of the biting and the craziness, I think now what would really help is our dogs playing a game called Wind Up, Calm Down. And I may have already touched on this when they were smaller, but you might not remember. So maybe, Dodo's off again, he's off working, he's doing assessments, so he's not here. But maybe's really, she gets wound up really, really quickly. This girl has issues with arousal, so she'll get overexcited. needless to say, now she's 13, so I'm going to try and wind her up, and she's going to refuse me because it's like, it's too hard now. But when she was tiny, she was very overexcitable, very bitey, and the way that that was dealt with was by providing her with that need. So we would play and play and play and play and play. But if she started to get overexcited and her emotional bubble started to expand and she was, you know, starting the risk of exploding, then the play would stop. It would go very, very still, very, very quiet. And it would keep still and it would keep quiet until you saw that bubble, that emotional bubble start to shrink and that self-control start to work. And then you start to invite the play again, and you start to wind up and get excited and get them moving. And then as you see them start to get overexcited, oh, stillness and quietness, completely take it away. And I want you to make it really obvious with your body language. Now, no, I'm not playing. Now, if you've watched puppies together, and I know it's been a while since you've been in the puppy class with me, but when we're watching the daycares, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for, how's the arousal level in the room? Is there somebody that's about to lose it? Do we need to calm everybody down? And the way we calm them down is either by distracting them, going on to doing something else entirely, or by just moving through them, so we distract them in that way, or we can call them away from each other, but we bring the whole feeling down. All right, so for this game, that's what I want you to do. I want you to have fun, wind them up, get them excited, get them bitey, get them silly. Now with Jill, you obviously are not playing this game. You sit still. You're not doing it, you're not allowed. All right, the hardest part here is waiting long enough. What I find is that people will often start the game again while the dog's arousal levels are too high. And the aim is not for them to get more and more and more excited to the point where they can't control themselves at all. The aim is for them to have a bit of excitement, start to get excited before they get really silly, stop. Okay, really quiet, very still body language. And then verbally and physically re-invite them to play, get them excited, and then as you feel them starting to, oh, we're not available, yeah. And if that means to begin with, even going so far as leaving the room or stepping out of their play zone. So with dogs who get really excited very quickly, I even suggest fastening them by a lead to something heavy so they can't follow you. So you can go into their play zone, you can engage with them, you can get them excited, but if just going still and being with them still doesn't work, you take your whole self away where they can't reach you, and you wait for them to demand back and be stupid and get overexcited and really strop it out, and you wait until you hear them go, yeah. And that, when they offer that alternative behavior, which will be, you know, bugger, it's not working, then you go, would you like to play again? And you invite them quite gently to begin with, yeah? You don't wind them up straight away. You invite them quite gently to start. And the aim is that if you did an MABC on this biting and getting overexcited behavior, what you've got is the motivation of remembering that it could be pain or discomfort or anxiety that's causing your dog to be more bitey. So remember, with those, you can add those in as potential motivators. But it could also be boredom. It could be the need for social contact. It could be just, I've got all this energy, where the hell do I put it? Yeah. Your antecedents are the fact that you're available when maybe you weren't available. The picture of when you're sat at the desk working is different from when you're up and about and moving, which is very much a thing for my dogs. You know, if I'm sat on the sofa, they're all poof, they've gone. As soon as I move, I'm covered in dogs. I can't move because I'm lathered in them, yeah? The consequence is the interaction. So if the behavior of biting at you makes you more exciting, you are making that behavior more likely to happen. Remember, the consequence is always the thing that drives and reinforces and causes that behavior to continue. All right, so go on, have a play. We'll just watch you all. Look at Leanne, that's beautiful stillness. And she says big licks of her chops because she wasn't sure. That big lick round her lips that she just did then was because she's like, well, we haven't done this before. What's going on? I'm not sure. I'm going to lick my chops and lick my nose and just sit here and go, oh, it's a bit weird. Yeah? So I'm looking for tiny signs like that. You're all right, Andrea. You're doing stillness just now. And some dogs take longer. Maybe it used to drive me absolutely potty because I'd be sat there 20, 30 seconds going, will you just, oh no, just waiting like this. And she finally started to get it. And do you know the biggest benefit of this game was that when she really started to understand it, if I started to try and engage her in an exciting game when she wasn't wanting it, she would try and calm me down by going still. Or if I started a hand-to-hand game and she thought that was being a bit rough, she'd go and she'd find a toy to put between us by her own choice. She learned to do that as a way of controlling and calming me down. All right? So, any thoughts on that? Any questions on that? Now, I know it feels a bit backwards, doesn't it? It feels like, oh my God, I've got this crazy dog and I'm making them crazier. But the important thing is what the result is. Yeah? If the dog wants you to start playing again, they need to offer a different behavior. And you need to absolutely stick to your guns. That you're not going to respond to having a ball shoved in your face. Yeah? You're going to wait until they really have given up. And they're not faking. Because remember, dogs are pretty good at faking. They'll kind of go, oh, all right, I've given up. And they're looking at you at the corner of their eye going, yeah, go on, fall for it. And then when you fall for it, they're on it again. They're straight up, high ramp level. Other self-control games, other emotional self-control games, such as the bowl game or anything along the lines of the bowl game, is also going to help them to start thinking calm is the thing that gets me the reinforcement. Waiting is the thing that gets me that high energy, go get it type behavior. Does that make sense? Is that what they're doing just before you let them have whatever that motivational need is the thing that gets that calm behavior to happen more often. It's so hard, isn't it? It's so hard and yet it's so simple. It drives me mad. When I'm being a human and I'm getting really upset with my dog and I'm thinking, oh, I hate them, they're really getting on my wick. And then I think, well, you're a bloody behaviourist. Why don't you just think about it, break it down? Come on then, Sid. Andrea.
You know, you said about, that's my slipper, feeding them out of the bowl. She doesn't like her food hard, so we have to moisten it so it goes soft, which obviously is going to be really messy if we put it in other stuff. So how do we go about that? I don't think it's the food that's the issue. She's on a sensitive food. It's just fish and rice. I honestly think she's been so quiet in the day that she comes alive at night with attention, and which is fair enough. That's completely understandable. So I understand the food bit. I just don't know how we put it into other objects so it's not shit all over the house. Sorry, rubbish all over the house.
Yeah. It does make it much harder, yeah, with wet food. But there are toys that put themselves better to that kind of food. Obviously, if she's got the food and it's on carpets and things, then yeah, it's going to be a mess. But if you've got a hard floor that she can eat a dinner on from food toys, most dogs, or a lot of dogs, will tidy up most of the mess themselves, and then it's just a case of you know, mopping and cleaning around, which you're going to be doing anyway at some point. No, okay. You're more along the lines of my philosophy on life. So I like things, let's just see if I can find you one. Have you heard of Connects? Connects toys. If I can find any. I absolutely love them, but they're expensive. We bought some for, I can't find them now. I don't know how you spell it. Connects. We bought some for tykes to use with the daycare dogs, and I'm assessing them with mine because mine are very hard chewers, so I'm just seeing how well they last. I think it's a Kong, but I can't remember. I think it might be Kong, but it might be a different company. I'm just trying to find it for you now. Oh, yeah. Is this it? No, that's something else. Kong Squeezy Gel Dog Toys. Didn't even know they existed. Just found something else I need to buy. Okay. Can't find it. You might have to do. Who's my internet shopper? Judith. We could put you on this. You need to find it. I'm sure it's called. It might be Connectables. Yeah. So basically, they are roundish or sort of pyramidal style toys, but they have a bit that pushes into the next bit. So in order to get the food out, the dog not only has to go and find the toy, then they have to remove part of it to empty what's inside that bit. And then that bit they've just removed, that's got stuff in it as well. So you can make as long a chain of these connectable toys as you can afford. But as I say, they're not cheap. There is a different company, and the one that I've just bought that we're trying is a different company, but I can't remember the name. So if Judith finds them, oh, which ones? That connects. Yeah, that's what we're on about. So they come in all these different shapes and sizes. If you share that with the WhatsApp group, that'd be great. All these different pieces, and you can put wet food in there. Yeah, they go into the dishwasher, so it's not a big problem to clean them. And I really like those. My only downside with those is I can't afford to buy them really. So Kongs, I love Kongs for wet food. But yeah, I mean, it's not very clean and hygienic feeding wet foods to your dog when you've got carpets and things. But I'd rather be doing that, especially with a teenager. I'd rather be doing that and doing a little bit of extra cleaning than risking me getting upset with my dog because they're in my face and they're nagging and they're, you know, I'd rather they were going off using that energy up somewhere else. Okay, hello. Can you unmute you?
Yeah. That would be really good with Poppy. Can you hear me? But the problem I have is Archie here as well. And Poppy's a bit like Dawn French with her chocolate orange when it comes to her food. And if he gets anywhere near, she shoots off at him, warning him off, etc. So although I think for her that would be absolutely brilliant, Archie can't resist when he's finished his food coming to have a look, or even if he's got something, she's wanting to have a look and pinch it. So we're finding that food, things like that, can cause her to be aggressive towards Archie.
Absolutely. And when I was first introduced to the idea of feeding from Kongs by Ian Dunbar, he, you know, that was the main question from everybody. I've got this other dog who's going to keep trying to get into them, and there's going to be these aggressive outbursts. What do I do? And his answer, and this has got to be going on 22 years ago now, when Kongs first came out, his answer was provide more Kongs. Okay, and it works. You know, I've lived with multiple dogs for many years. Look you, Tilly, what are you doing? Oh, I see. She's got a playmate. Yeah, I couldn't see the other dog. Is it dog cat? Brilliant. So yeah, provide more. So we do at the unit, we have Kong parties. We'll have cardboard box parties where the boxes are all stuffed full of food. And do we get aggression? Well, yeah, to a degree. What happens is one dog will come over and they'll say, can I have that? And they say no, which is quite appropriate. And then they go, all right, I'll go get this one then. Because there's enough there that actually fighting over it isn't worth it. Yeah? When it starts to get to the point where they're empty, and quite often then the dogs are more satiated, so that they're less likely to be desperately trying to take it off each other. But then you start to supervise, and my rule then at that point is, if there's still food in play and one dog's got it, I'm going to remove the one who's trying to take it. I'm going to say, no, that is that dog's. That dog has got possession. That's theirs. Yeah? But I provide enough. So you've got to have at least 2 spares. If I've got 3 dogs in action, I need at least 2 spare other toys available that they could go to if they needed to. Does that make sense? You're right, Leanne. You look like you're falling asleep. Am I boring you? Yeah. So, hard mouths. I think we're going to do this. We're going to forget about the recall stuff. We're going to just do a quick stuff about feeding. So, biting in play is usually, because we know these dogs are all good dogs. We know that they're lovely dogs. They've just got arousal issues. They get overexcited. They're using their mouths to try and explain things to you. So we need to make sure we explain to them how sensitive our hands are. And come here. Come here. You go over there a minute. Maybe, again, my little frustration intolerant dog. Let's just move this down here so you can see her. Oh, if I can balance my phone on my mug, which is easier said than done. There we go. She's always, as I say, she's always had a problem with arousal. She tends to get overexcited about things, and she's always had a slightly harder mouth than any other dog that I've ever owned. So when you offer food to her mouth, she will tend to, oh, she's not going to do it for camera, is she? She usually snatches. So she'll usually take fingers into my mouth, into her hand. So one of the things you can play is the zoom game. So she's going to see the food coming, and if she can control her urge to move towards it, and you can see how hard that is for her. If she can control her urge, I'm going to zoom the food into her. So it's coming really, really slow. I'm not on camera, I apologise for that, but my hand is moving really, really, really slowly. And if she can control her urge to go towards it, it zooms into her like that. And over the course of time, the slow bit gets longer and the zoom bit gets shorter, until eventually you can hold food right in front of their noses and they shouldn't want, she's snatching. She's always been the same. Okay, again, she's the one, if I wind her up, and she's going to refuse to be wound up just now, she says I am working for food. But if I wind her up, she gets bitey. She gets overexcited really, really quickly. But she's also the one with the wind up, calm down game. She learned to tell me to calm down. So she learned to use her stillness and her taking herself away, or offering me an alternative, offering me a toy instead of hands. So she used to literally shove the toy into my hand, and she still does now. And that's why I use her as my semi-trained assistance dog. So if I accidentally drop something, can you pick it up? Go pick it up. Then I've got my little semi-trained assistance dog. So if I've got a bad back, that comes in really useful. So it is just a case of teaching them what does work, and it is irritating. You're talking to my belly, aren't you? I'll move you up there. It is irritating. I do understand. All right, so I don't know how useful you found that, or how interesting. I hope I haven't put you all to sleep and it's all been a bit lecturous. But lecturous in different spelling from the inappropriate version, let's just say. Leanne got it. Judith got it. Okay, so I hope that has been useful. Is anybody got anything they want to say on that subject? Are we all now going to go off and do me an MABC, and let's have a discussion on WhatsApp? What do you want, my darling?
Can I, after class, can you just give me a couple of minutes advice? And not on Sid, Prue's got a bit of an emergency, and I just wanted to, not an emergency, that's the wrong thing. So when the class is finished, just grab me.
All right. Okay. All right. So everybody else fairly happy? No, Judith, what's wrong? Have I been so boring that I've made your face go all? Was you hoping for something a bit more exciting today? I'll try harder. Must try harder. All right. I do love you all. I do really like you all. And I think we have one more session, don't we, before Christmas break up? Because that will be the 20th, won't it? So we'll see you then. And yeah. Bye. So what I can get you lot to do, actually, if you press your own leave buttons, so press on your own picture, press your own leave button, and then we'll keep Sid back. And perhaps Sammy would like to listen in. You're welcome to stay if you want. Okay. See you later.
Hi, Julie. The puppies have all been born, hopefully. Prue has a heat lamp over them. She's got the central heating on, but the heat lamp has just broken and she can't get a bulb anywhere. Are the puppies going to be all right without the heat lamp? Or if not, do you know anywhere where she can get something? Sorry, I'm sorry to bother you, but it's a bit of a, God, where do we turn?
Sorry, say again, because I was being distracted by Judith, who was having trouble leaving.
Right, the puppies hopefully have all been born. They're in a centrally heated room in a whelping box, but the heat lamp's broken and she can't get a bulb locally. Are they all right without the heat lamp, or do you know anywhere where she can get one?
So the answer to that question would be, is Mum nursing them and curling around them?
Yes, she's nursing them. She's obviously going to want to get up and have something to eat, but normally she has a heat lamp over them. She just doesn't know if it's going to be enough for Mum to just keep them warm.
No, so what will generally happen, when you think about this, dogs do give birth in the wild, you know, and they do have puppies down drain pipes and all sorts of horrible situations. So the mum is the perfect source for heat regulation. And yes, she will need to get up and move around and do whatever. But what will tend to happen then is the puppies will start to vocalize and they'll start to try and find her again, and that will call her back.
Right.
So If she wants to provide an additional heat source, then things like cheap hot water bottles, you have to make sure they're not too hot. So you cover them in something like a, you know, water bottle cover. And you also need to make sure they lose heat quite quickly. So you need to make sure that they don't get too cool, because if the pup's laying against them, it could cool them down. Much better if she can get something like a microwave heat pad. I'm trying to think. I mean, some vets do keep them in stock. I know we don't anymore. You could make, I don't think we've even got that many that are in use for us, for our inpatients at the moment either. But, you know, they're gel filled, and you might even find them somewhere like in the pound shop, but you'd have to go searching. Might be quick to order from the internet, but I can't guarantee it at the moment with Christmas. So those gel microwave heat packs, they're really good. They do maintain their heat quite well. I might have one here. I don't know. I can't think where it might be, but I might have one in the house actually. I'll let you know if you just hold on for me, and if not, then somebody could drive out and borrow that. But I don't think it'd be necessary. If the room's warm and there is bedding and the bitch is nursing and she is interested in the puppies, then she should be enough. She should do the job.
Okay, right, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll let her know.
Try not to.
You'd think it was all of ours first litter. Prue's been through this so many times, but the older you get, it seems the more anxious you get. Bless her. And she's, I think we're hoping this is her last. I mean, the bitch, it's her third litter, so she's not a new mum. She's quite good at this. It's going to be her last litter, obviously. But it's just, oh shit, everything goes wrong at the wrong time, doesn't it? But I'll tell her that. Thank you so much. And thanks for a great class.
It's exciting.
You know me, it's all what could go wrong. That's all I live on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, darling.
Cheerio.
I'll let you go. I'm going to keep Sammy because I'm
okay. I'm just trying to see how I go. All right. Thank you. Ta-da.
Bye.